Yo, what's up, dogs? I am back once again with another movie review, and this time we have Mickey 17. And I'm just going to start off with I really liked the sci fi ideas in this movie. I really liked how they explained the Expendables and how they're created. I really liked the printing machine. I actually liked all the scientist stuff that was going on in this movie because they do a lot of weird stuff, and I feel like these scientists are not the most brightest, yeah, of the bunch, and they are comical at what they do, but they do figure things out, and I just liked it. I really enjoyed the printing sequence of an expendable, which is Mickey, and I liked just how it looked, and just it just looked good, and I thought it was funny because like the way the printer like jiggles and stuff like that. There's just things about it I really liked, and I like the concepts of it, of how like they download your consciousness into, or your brain into a big like brick. And I just liked it. I just thought it was well thought out, and it was a good idea. And I like that Earth is kind of dying, sort of, so to speak, maybe overpopulated. And the whole thing is like we're going to go on a ship and colonize a new planet, multiple planets. I think there's multiple ships, and the ship that we happen to be on is the one that's ran by Kenneth Marshall, who's played by Mark Ruffalo. And this Kenneth Marshall character is kind of like a very comical parody of like an evangelical TV preacher. And or sometimes I kind of was thinking of like a musical act, like a maybe like a Tom Jones that has like a residency at like Las Vegas, And there are undertones too of various political leaders like, Trump, Nixon, Reagan. Pick your poison, so to speak, of who you think he's representing here. But there's a lot of things going on in this movie on the parody side of things with this character, and specifically that's very, very heavy-handed and on the nose, and at times makes the parody not even funny, which isn't good because great parody is good parody, and I like parody. I think parody is good, and anything should be parodied. There's no limits to parody, but there's times when it gets just too heavy-handed and too on the nose where it's not funny, and you're just really just making fun of people, and that's not parody. That's just being mean. You know what I'm saying? And I want to laugh. You don't like that's the whole point of parodies. Make me laugh. And a thing about this movie too is I thought the story was actually pretty decent, like up to a point. Like I was on board with the story up until it just became a run of the mill action movie, so to speak. And at times too, this movie has way too many characters in it. And I really enjoyed spending the time with Mickey. I thought he was a very interesting character. I like this concept of him being this guy who was downtrodden on his luck, like bad luck. He had a friend with Timu, and Timu's not a good guy. And he got them in a situation with the mafia where they owe him a lot of money, or sorry, the mafia a lot of money. And they're the way they thought they could get out of this sticky situation of not dying is going on Kenneth Marshall's expedition ship and joining the crew and get far away from the mafia as possible. And I feel like there's a lot of elements that there's like these certain side story beats that are going on that we don't get to spend a lot of time with to really like develop and enjoy, and we're just going along at a very lightning speed, and that sometimes is a detriment to the actual overall story experience that we're here with. There's just too much going on all at once. And so Mickey signs up as an expendable, and he doesn't really read the fine print, and he goes on and becomes an expensive experiment, so to speak, at least according to Kenneth Marshall. Like that, this guy's out here to be an experiment for the betterment of humanity, of everyone on this spaceship. And so, what they do with him is multiple experiments once they get to this planet, which I think it's called Nilfenheim or something like that. I can't remember the name of it, but it's something. It kind of sounded like Vikingish to me. And so every instance of each Mickey we get to kind of hang out with, and they show all the weird experiments and trials that they put him through. And we also find out, like, we also meet his love interest, which is Nasha, played by Naomi Aki, who is like deeply in love with him, and he loves her too. And we don't, I would say that we don't really get a lot of time between them where they are actually developing this relationship to the point where we really, really care, and it shows how much Mickey loves Nasha. But we do understand that Nasha will do anything for this man. She will defend him. She loves him, and like they really enjoy being together with each other. And she's also cool with him being an expendable. Like that's another element of it. Like she's cool with him dying, and they talk about that very briefly. It's a lot of voiceover in this movie, and we just you just kind of go along with it. And um, there's a there's things in this movie that are you kind of have like a lot of questions. There's lots of questions that go on in this movie. They don't ever get answered, right? Like the thing that made me laugh in this movie was like there's a scene in this movie where they talk about so in this movie one of the rules is calories. So everybody gets X amount of calories. That should make them that should be sufficient for the day. Um, and sex is too many calories. So they're like, we have to cut back on sex because we don't have enough calories to like survive the trip and stuff. So that is a thing. And like even Kenneth is like, he says, once we get to the planet, blah blah blah, and establish the colony, we will have the biggest sexual revelation festival. And everyone's like, yeah. And I thought that was funny. And I was like, yeah, okay, this makes sense. But we still see Nasha and like Mickey sneak off and like make love and stuff like that and have sex. And I'm just like, wait a minute, shouldn't there be any repercussions for these people breaking the law, so to speak, on this ship? And that doesn't happen. So it's kind of just like, well, what's the point of this rule? What's the point of the calorie rule if you don't really adhere anything to it? You know, and that's a lot. There's a lot of things like that that go on in this movie, and there's questions that come up in this movie too because there's a sequence where Mickey 17 is out on an expedition with some military people, and these are other characters that we do learn about, but there's so many freaking characters that you kind of just lose track of everybody, and I did. And so the one blonde woman dies. She gets a cave in on her, ice cave in, and Kenneth Marshall finds out that this woman's dead, and he berates Mickey like nonstop, just berates him. And he says, how dare you let one of our most precious assets alive die? Like, and I was like, oh yeah, you know what? That makes a lot of sense because you need women to reproduce. And I was like, oh wow, that's an interesting moral question here. And it also showed like that woman was with the brunette woman and they looked like they were lovers, like in a I want to say lesbian relationship to at some point. And then I was sitting there, I'm like, wait a minute, what are we doing here? Is everyone on this ship bisexual? Like, there's things that questions that come up when you're watching this movie, and no answers. And I was just like, well, this is an interesting situation. What if this woman who's on the ship, who fell in love with this woman, doesn't want to have children? Then what do you do? Like, what's going on? And yeah, so it's just like it was just a question I was like sitting there thinking, I'm like, that's an interesting question. However, no answers for this question. We just carry on. And so even Mickey's like, yeah, I'm sorry. Anyways, so what happens in this movie is like there comes to a point where Mickey 17 is thought to die at the hands of the creepers. And these are the native inhabitants of the planet, which are these woolly mammoth type creatures with tentacles is the best way I could describe them. And we don't know much about them other than they could be a threat potentially. However, when Mickey 17 comes across them, he does not die and they spit him back out, so to speak, as like, hey, you're good, man. We're cool. We're not going to eat you. And they people on the ship think Mickey 17 died, but really he didn't, and so they made Mickey 18. And now we have this new question that comes into play where we have multiples, and Mickey 17 and Mickey 18 confront each other for the first time, and now we're going to go down this rabbit hole. What are these two people going to do to coexist? And it's really, I'm going to kill you or you're going to kill me because I want to live and I don't want you to live because I'm alive. And it's this whole little bit of a something, but like again, it doesn't go beyond that. It doesn't go into like any philosophical questions of like do they share the same memories? Do they share the same soul? Is there a conscious connection between the two? What else is there? Like, there's nothing of that ilk, and it just like glosses it all over and says, "Hey, we came up with the rules for multiples and they show us a court case," which I appreciated. And I thought it was a good I thought it was a good show don't tell kind of thing. And I was like, I'm interested in this. There's a lot of things that are presented in this movie where I'm like, I am interested in this. I don't care about all this bloat. And this movie gets more and more bloated as it goes on. And I think that's one of the problems with this film. It's just so much that's going on, and it doesn't chip away at anything. It just keeps adding to it, adding to it, and adding to it. And I'm not going to keep going over every single little detail in this movie because there's a lot of things that go on in this movie. And you're kind of just sitting there, I'm like, maybe we could have edited out a couple things in here or taken out like the Timu and Mickey relationship or done something different with it because even that comes back at the end too. And you also have this like I wanted more of the relationship between Mickey 18 and Mickey 17 and Nasha in a sense. Like what are we going to do here? But that all just crumbles away with there's like drug use. We're thinking about infidelity. We're thinking about sex orgy. We have Timu turning on Mickey. We have Mickey 18 turning on Mickey 17. Like there's so much going on, and then we have um, Kenneth Marshall finding out about Mickey 17 and 18's existence. We have the introduction of the creepers that aren't here to fight, but Kenneth Marshall thinks that they are going to kill the humans that are on this planet. And then there's the war of the creepers, and then there's the outcome of Mickey 17 and 18 versus Kenneth Marshall, and then we have the actual ending of the movie, and then we also have I forgot all about her Yifa, who's played by Toni Collette, and her whole addiction to sauces, and it's just like this ongoing joke of food and sauces with her. I don't even understand who she's parodying, but who cares about that? And then it just keeps adding. And I think I'm done. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, oh my god, there's so much going on, and there's so many things that just are not resolved. You know what I'm saying? And then the ending happens. You're just like, thank God. I like the ending though. I like how certain things were wrapped up. Only certain things were wrapped up. And I think the best thing about the whole ending to me was it actually really cemented the relationship between Nasha and Mickey 17 and or sorry, Mickey Barnes really at that point and how much she genuinely loved him and cared for him. And they showed that at the end. And I was like, I appreciate that. You know what I'm saying? But still, I'm sure there's a deep philosophical meanings buried within this movie about how, we work for peanuts and we're slaves and all that jazz. I'm sure it's in here. I'm not getting into the philosophicals of it because I need to rewatch this movie sometime down the road when I'm like, all right, let's dissect this film. You know what I'm saying? But on that note, we're going to wrap it up here because I'm going to be honest with you. I think the movie is okay. I don't think you need to go spend top dollar on this film. If you need to see it, go see it on the cheap night. And if you don't want to see it, I do recommend that you give it a stream whenever it comes out on VOD or on our streaming platforms. I do think it will make for a good rainy day movie, even though it does bog at various points in this film. I have to be honest with you, 1000% in that. And on that note, my friends, I am out of here. Leave a like button. uh, Leave a like button. Duh. Hit the like button. Leave a comment below. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification bell because I'm always reviewing movies and movie trailers, and I'm trying to get better at them every single day. So bear with me, my friends. Come back for another one. I'm out of here. We're Friday. We're almost there for the weekend. I have to work tonight, but I'm not going to work too hard, and neither should you. So bear with me, guys. Only a couple more hours till the weekend. I'm out of here. Peace out, everybody. Bye.